What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex. I'm here for another Smashing Pumpkins review. This time we're going to be reviewing their final album, the last album the Smashing Pumpkins have released, Monuments to an Elegy. So we're going to be talking about this entire album. I've done reviews for every single Smashing Pumpkins album, back from Gish all the way up till now, so make sure you check out our channel for all of those videos. We're going to be continuing our Smashing Pumpkins content. They come out every other Sunday. I'm going to be talking about music videos, about songs in general. I'm going to rank some things. I want to do quite a few more videos about the Smashing Pumpkins. I don't really want to stop. I love talking about this band. They're my favorite band ever, and I have a lot to say. And so, like I said, we've done reviews for every single album, but this is the final album. Monuments to an Elegy came out in 2014, December 5th of 2014, and this is the most recent album they had produced. Now, this was Billy Corgan, pretty much him and Jeff Schroeder actually made this album. We're going to be doing what we do for all the album reviews. I'm going to be talking about the album as a whole, and then I'm going to be talking about each and every song on the album. So I'm going to be going through every single song as soon as I talk about the pros and cons of the album. And you know, this album had a lot going for it, and a lot of people really like this album. Even when it came out, this is the last of the new age Smashing Pumpkins stuff. And in terms of the three albums, Zeitgeist, Oceania, and then Monuments, they all are very different. People like different ones for different reasons. Now, what I'll say is I really enjoy Zeitgeist the more I listen to it. Some of those songs I think are some super fantastic songs, especially the second half of that album I think really rocks. Oceania is quite the mixture of a lot of different sounds, a lot of different interesting things Billy Corgan tries. And Monuments, you know, when it came out, people had said over and over again, critics and fans, that this was the best Smashing Pumpkins work since Machina, since the band broke up. That this album was better than Zeitgeist and Oceania. Now, what I'll honestly say is, listening to both, I think they're all very close. Zeitgeist is not bad like people say it is. I truly love it. Oceania had always been what I had said was my favorite of the three albums. Monuments, to me, has so many good things going for it, but it also has a lot of cons, and one of the biggest cons is its length. It's only 9 songs long, and I really think that hurts the album overall. I think what Billy Corgan does with this album is super good. I mean, it has some really nice guitar stuff. No solos, no fantastic, you know, solo shredding moments. No really over-the-top guitar work whatsoever. There's some heavier guitar. He plays around with the guitar a little bit more. There's some different sounds to this album, much like Oceania, in terms of like backing tracks, in terms of music, and I like that. And he took a lot of what worked with Oceania, and even to a small extent Zeitgeist, and he put that into Monuments. And he even said with Monuments, this was an album where he's the furthest removed from the Smashing Pumpkins, where he's really saying goodbye to the old days of Smashing Pumpkins. Now, it's funny what has happened since then. Obviously, the band has come back together without Darcy, of course, but that, you know, that it's kind of a weirder time in their history. What's even stranger is the fact that, you know, originally it was supposed to be Monuments and then Day for Night, and that was a whole album thing that was supposed to happen. This was actually supposed to be the ending of a Tear Garden by Kaleidoscope that he ended up canceling, or he said was canceled just actually a little while ago, our time. So a lot happened with this album. I think it came together rather quickly. Obviously, like I said, Billy Corgan and Jeff Schroeder played on this. Now, they lost Mike Byrne and Nicole Florentino. They did not play on this album. I think nothing has ever really been said about those two, but rumor has it, you know, they were just fired, and then they just weren't working out with the band. And so they had Tommy Lee of Motley Crue do the drumming, and that is one of the more interesting parts of the sound of this album. The guitar work, like I said, I like it. It's very different because it's not like 10 guitars going on at the same time. There's no fantastic solos. Really, some of the better guitar work I think is on Anti-Hero, or Anti-Hero, however you want to say it, and Tiberius, the first and last song of the album. I think are some of the more creative guitar stuff on this album. And other than that, the guitar doesn't really get that creative. So the guitar work is a little bit pushed back, which is strange because that is what makes Smashing Pumpkins Smashing Pumpkins. His voice is another thing that makes the band and his voice is definitely present in this. It carries the way in some songs, and I really like it. His voice very much changes as he's gotten older, and this album is the most recent, and his voice is definitely the most different in this album than any of the other albums. Oceania, we really started to hear a change in his voice, an older, you know, still the nasally kind of stuff people will remember from like Machina or Melancholy, but not the Zeitgeist sound either. Zeitgeist is pretty close to those, but then when it comes to Oceania, it kind of changed a little bit, and then Monuments it changed even more. The bass work was done by him, so there's nothing really to talk about there, and the bass work is actually prevalent in some of the songs that I actually quite enjoy, but the drumming, you know, I like it and I don't like it. I like it because it's very different, and when I was going into that album, that was the first album that I bought from them. I had listened to a lot of their songs. I listened to albums like online, start to finish, but I got that album for Christmas in 2014. I listened to it from start to finish. It's only like 32 minutes long, so it's not hard to listen to. But I listened to that album, and I remembered going into that album that Billy Corgan had said multiple times that, like, Tommy Lee, and if you know who Tommy Lee is of Motley Crue, which I'm not a big Motley Crue fan, and I don't know much about Motley Crue or Tommy Lee, so I really just went on word of mouth that he's a very loud drummer. He really hits the drums like hard, and the cymbals and everything, and that's very true. Now, he's not the fastest drummer in the world, and he doesn't have the Smashing Pumpkins kind of feel to him, and I feel like that's the pro and con right there. The pro side is this album definitely sounds super different. From start to finish, the drum work in this is very interesting and unique and different, and I do like it in that way. I like that it's very, very loud. And it sounds almost aggressive how much, like, I can actually, every time I hear it and I listen to the drum part, I literally see a man. I don't really even know what he looks like, but I see a man just really hitting the cymbals and the drums. That's what I picture in my head, which is cool. On the flip side, Mike Byrne, even, for Oceania, he has somewhat of a Jimmy Chamberlin kind of, where he kind of compares himself, or he tries to mimic that kind of sound. I mean, Oceania definitely sounded very much different than Jimmy Chamberlin's drumming technique, but it sounded close. In terms of Jimmy Chamberlin and all, obviously we know what his work can actually be. He's a phenomenal drummer, and even like Adore, you can't really count that stuff because a lot of that stuff didn't rely on drums at all. It just relied on just normal beats and tempos, so you really can't compare that. But when it comes to Tommy Lee, this is just not even close. There is no fast drumming. It doesn't really sound that stylized, that jazzy kind of thing that Jimmy Chamberlin can do. This sounds just very hard and a little bit slower. It's not very fast. I do feel like some of the songs suffer from that fast feel, but like I said, from start to finish, this album, I'd say, is very good. I really enjoy the album. The weakest part of this album is the fact that it's only 9 songs. I wish it was longer. There's no song on here that lasts that long. I think Run to Me is the longest song on here. But songs in this album don't go more than 4.5 minutes, which, for like radio friendly and for just the average listener picking up an album from start to finish, that's a good thing. You don't want long songs. And they had been blasted in the past for having long songs like XYU and like Porcelina and like any other For Martha, any other long songs. They've been blasted for making really, really long songs, but I've always super enjoyed them. And when it comes to this album, there's none. And the album goes by very, very quickly. And while that's good, you get in, you listen to it all, it's a really fun ride, and you get out. Overall, there's just not enough like substance, and there's not enough reason to constantly listen to these songs, except for a couple of them, and we'll go through each one, but I really, really don't. That's the weakest part. But overall, I do really enjoy all the aspects of this album. I really loved the album when it came out. When I listened to it, I thought it was their best album of the 3. And then I listened to Zeitgeist all the way, and I've listened to Oceania tons of times. I just feel like there's more going on, especially in Oceania. There's just a lot of creativity. There's some longer songs. There's some different stuff. There's some amazing guitar work. There's some really nice vocals from him. I think overall that's the best album, but I want to talk about that definitely in another video. But Monuments, I definitely think is a very, very good album. And now we're going to go through each song start to finish. We're not going to go super, super long and talk about each song in that, go super in depth, but I do want to talk about each song just a little bit. With the first song being Tiberius, I really like this. I like the background kind of piano, organ, or whatever instrument that is. I really think that's a really nice add-on in terms of starting the album. And then the guitars hit you, and the guitars, again, in this song are pretty creative. I do like the more kind of like one note, but like a drop D or whatever he's doing, and kind of a muffled, heavy sound, where it does sound like it's punching you in the face, but it's also a little bit creative and in the Smashing Pumpkins kind of style. And I like his voice in the song a lot. I really think this song is a fantastic opener for this album. I think it kind of really shows what we're about to listen to for the full album, and I really do think he nails it for this opening song. Being Beige is number 2, and this song was the first single in terms of the album, and I actually I enjoyed it. I remember Tyler, I was trying to get him into Smashing Pumpkins at the time, and I just couldn't do it. And this album didn't necessarily help with that case, because Being Beige was the first song I think he really listened to by Smashing Pumpkins. I like the song. I do think it's long. It's a little bit repetitive, especially towards the end. But again, in this song, you really do listen to the actual drumming. This was the first song they actually made a music video of since back in Zeitgeist time, because they didn't do any for Oceania, which was a little bit disappointing. But I really liked the Being Beige actual music video. But this song is good. It's a little bit plain, especially when you listen to it over and over again. But I like the kind of one plucking guitar string, a little bit like Tonight, but not really, but in that kind of style in terms of guitar work. The song is creative. The song does some different stuff with the drums, very, very heavy, very loud, and does some really nice stuff with the guitars too, where it's a little bit more gentle, and then it kind of hits you, and his voice hits you too. His voice is very, very prevalent in the song, and overall, I do like the song. Being a single, I definitely would say there's better songs, and a couple of my favorite songs on this album never even got chosen for the singles, and people had asked him about that too, in terms of like, how'd you pick, and why wasn't this song one, and why was this one? He said he never had any control over what song was the single. That was the record company's decision, which you can kind of tell, because I do think in this entire album, they made the wrong choices on which songs to promote the hardest. I think Tiberius, I think Drum and Fife, I think Anti-Hero were the songs to go with, and one of them did get picked in terms of Drum and Fife, but I really don't think they did the actual marketing right. Anna Issel is next. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, because I've never heard that word out loud or seen it or whatever. But this song is really, really nice. It's got a very, very different kind of sound. And I remember when I listened to it, this was my least favorite song on the album. Now it's towards the top. I think it's very, very different and very, very creative. I really like the bass work, even if it's just Billy Corgan. And even if it's not very fast, it's not very, in terms of like speed at all, or in terms of even like style, it's not that fancy, the bass work. But I really, really like it, and I love the drums. I really think the drums hit hard, and maybe even hardest in this song. This is a moment where I do think the drums all come together. I really like his voice. I like the verse and chorus kind of contrast of how they do it. It's just a very different kind of setup Smashing Pumpkins song that I don't think we've really ever heard. And coming right after Being Beige and Tiberius, I really do think it's in a really, really nice spot. And overall, like I said, when I first listened to the song, I was not a fan. Now I am a fan. One and All is next, number 4, and in parentheses, We Are. So We Are One and All. And this song is super, I like it. I think this is the most heavy rock song. If you remember, like in terms of Zeitgeist, when they were making Zeitgeist, they talked about how they kind of made that album in terms of just a rock album, in terms of kind of just ear grabbing. For this, I hear the heaviest guitars. I hear the most like chord heavy kind of song, and I really do think this is the most rock heavy kind of just ear grabbing song, which I think this could have been the first song that they even just announced and they put like on YouTube for us to hear it. I believe this was the first one. It was either this or Being Beige, and I definitely like this one more. I still really do enjoy this song. I think it's a little simple. I don't really think there's anything special about it, but in that terms, I do think it is meant to be the song that kind of grabs somebody in, because it is simplistic in terms of the drumming. It is simplistic in terms of the actual guitar work, although it's heavy and loud and in that kind of way, like a rock song, and even his voice. This song really, I feel like, is just to grab an average listener, maybe not even a Smashing Pumpkins song, because this song, to be honest, is probably one of the least Smashing Pumpkins songs of the modern day Smashing Pumpkins, in my opinion. Number 5 is Run to Me. Now this song, for me, is super interesting. I like this song a lot, but I think what does this song the best is listening to it live. I went to see him right after this album came out in 2015 for that summer when he was kind of promoting this album, and he went around kind of smaller venues in terms of like amphitheaters and things like that, and he played Run to Me, and I truly love that song live. I think the album doesn't do it justice at all. I feel like it is a song that's very slow, in a way, kind of heavy, but just overall a non-impressive song at all on the album. And I definitely do feel it even now. But what I will say is, listening to it live, it's phenomenal. It's faster. It's much louder. When he's singing and then the guitar comes in the background with the actual loud chord to kind of interrupt his singing, it works in the song in terms of like it's playing and it's trying to be a little bit creative, and I like it, but in terms of live, it really, really works very, very well. I highly encourage you that if you've listened to this album and you haven't heard any of these songs live, he hasn't played all of these songs live. A lot of these songs he hasn't played live, but in terms of Run to Me, he did, and I definitely would suggest you guys watch the live version, because I think that version blows this version out of the way. I think it makes the song 10 times better. I like listening to the song on Monuments way more now that I listen to it live, and overall this is one of my more favorite songs just because of it being live. The next song is Drum and Fife, which I think is my favorite song on the album. I think it's just so different and Smashing Pumpkins-y in a way, where again I really like the guitar work, I like the background music that we get to hear, I really like his voice, and this song was obviously aimed at troops coming home and what they deal with, and he had talked about that, and even when he went around promoting it, that's what he was talking about on like TV stations or whatever, weather channels or whatever he went on. But I really do like that message, and I really do think that's kind of a cool thing that he did that for the troops, and I think the song is very good. It's got some awesome guitar work, awesome drum work. I really like his vocals. The song overall as a package, I think, is one of the strongest, if not the strongest song on the entire album. And number 7 is Monuments. I think this song is probably the weakest. It's got the background kind of noise, the electronic, whatever they're doing with whatever noises they're working with here. I think it's trying to be creative, it's trying to be more modern day and all that stuff, but overall I think the song falls flat. I don't really find anything about this song good. I like his voice. I always like his voice. And I wouldn't never say like a song is bad. I really don't think there's a bad song the Smashing Pumpkins have ever made. But in terms of this song, I don't think there's anything special about it. I definitely would just skip it. It's just a song that I think is totally skippable. I will listen to it. If I'm listening to the entire album, which I did for the review, I will listen to it. But in all, this is a song that I think you can just go right by and say, never mind. The next song is Dorian, and this song is good. This song is good live and in the actual album. I remember listening to him play this song live. I really like it. I like it on the album too. It's a little bit repetitive. In fact, it's incredibly repetitive. There's not a lot of, in terms of vocals and lyrics, there's not a lot of lyrics in this song. But I like it. I really like the guitar work that he sings, and then it kind of does its little riff going on there. I really, really like that song. I like the drum work. This song overall is like a fun song, a nice song kind of towards the end of the album, a nice bounce back from the song Monuments, but a song that, again, emphasizes his voice, emphasizes a unique and different kind of guitar work that is not Smashing Pumpkins-y, but it is in terms of this album. It's a really good indicator, and you can kind of tell, like, this is the sound of the guitar in this album, Monuments to Elegy, and it plays really well here. So overall, I really do enjoy the song. And the final song is Anti-Hero. This song is very, very good. I really do love this song. I think, other than Drum and Fife, I would say Anti-Hero is my second favorite. I like the drum work. I like the guitar work kind of mimicking the drums, kind of like the left ear, right ear thing where the guitar is in one and the drums are in the other. I like his voice. I like when it gets to the actual chorus, how it hits you hard with the drums, with a different kind of guitars where the octaves are, again, matching his voice. I say it every single album that he does this in. I really, really like it when they match the guitar with his voice, and this song does it too. You can't necessarily even understand what he's saying in the chorus of the song unless you look up the lyrics, but I really, really love the guitar work matched with his voice. I think it does an outstanding job, and this is one of my more favorite songs of this album, and even in terms of modern-day Smashing Pumpkins, is one of my favorite songs by a lot. I really, really do enjoy the song. So overall, like I said, as an album, it's got some problems. It's got some problems, and it's got some pros. This album really is an interesting one, and I'm happy it came out, and I'm happy I got to listen to it. I want a new album. I want their other 7 songs to come out other than Solara, which I do think that song is arguably better than all of these songs. I really do believe that. Maybe it's just kind of the whole, like, the Smashing Pumpkins are back and everybody's back together and everybody's feeling good about it and stuff like that. But that could just be because of that feel, but that's what I think about that. I want to hear the rest of the Smashing Pumpkins songs that they're going to eventually release, and I will, of course, be reviewing each and every one of them on this channel. So in 2 weeks, we'll be back for another Smashing Pumpkins video. Don't know what I'm going to make yet, but it's going to be something. I do not want to stop talking about this band. I love the band. I love everything about them, so I definitely want to make more content for them. So thank you guys, as always, for watching. I couldn't do this without you guys watching all these reviews, and like I said, we'll be continuing them 2 weeks on Sunday. So thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you on that video.